And we're back once again, only on It's Last Call. Last Call of the Alcohol, only on the Last Call Podcast.com. And joining me here once again, always on our YouTube channel. We love having him on because he is unabashed, uncensored, uncooked, and well, he is ready to start giving his takes. And if you don't like it, that's too bad. I give you the man with the largest natural arms in the world. I give you Kevin Apollo. So, Kevin, let's start off here with bit of sad news here, and we'll get into TNA NXT in a bit, but first, Ash by Elegance forced to retire. It's not a storyline. This is a work, as they call it. Recently, at TNA Victory Road, she gave up a title. It's been health reasons, which TNA and her have really kept under wraps. And for you, Kevin, because you and I talked when our first ever interview, you talked about how you were getting that big break. You're about to go to WB, and then the tricep injury hits, and it screws everything. How much do you look at this for her and go, I feel your pain? Because if this is when life hits and it kicks your ass.
Yeah, dude, well, first I'll say there was a couple big steps in between but the fact that Mark Carrano knew who I was and we were scheduling what tryout to go to was significant. But yeah, man, this sucks, and unfortunately, it's an ever looming specter on anyone who's a wrestler. You just never know when your bump card's going to get punched. I this one hurts because we watched her work really hard to improve in the ring, to improve in the mic. Towards the end there, when she was finally starting to shine, she never really got a chance to get her due in WWE. And then the Ash by Elegance story in TNA, I thought she did great work with it. It took a little bit for it to get momentum, but once the ball started rolling, it was interesting. Then putting her with the Iconics just made it that much better, and she was poised to really shine, to really shine pretty bright. I was a little annoyed that she wasn't at that Evolution pay-per-view, but I get it, you can't get everybody in. But this was going to be her moment to really really kind of show everybody what she was capable of, and it sucks to see that taken away. I hope it's one of those things where it's something they can figure out and it's not a forever thing. Because I do think she had a little bit more to give, and it would have just it's always special when you see someone who came in and I get Hunter plucked her from the Arnold Classic. Vince pulled her up way too fast. So you watch someone struggle. You watch someone struggle, but then you slowly start to see them learn it and then learn how to get it, and then finally get it, and then you kind of be poised to shine. And it sucks. It sucks that we didn't get to that. We weren't able to see her get to that next level.
What bothered me was you see a lot of people get released from WWE and they keep the same gimmick, whether it's Andrade, the Hardys, Bobby Lashley. And I get it, it's like Novocaine. If it works, you give it time and you can take it anywhere you want. She reinvented herself. I mean, I give her, anybody does that, I give so much credit because you could just go and be like, hey, I'm Dana Brooke in TNA or I'm Dana Brooke in AEW. And this is for her. She
Yeah.
built a new character. It was something we'd never seen. She tries to add comedy, which I tell people all the time. It's the most difficult thing. It doesn't matter if it's wrestling or even acting. Comedy is difficult.
Yep.
And it's a gut punch because, as you said, she finally was hitting her peak. And again, I don't think people give enough credit. That takes guts to have to go, okay, absolutely. I'm going to reinvent myself.
Well, absolutely, and it would have been very easy for her to become bitter, especially after the release, especially after the way they treated between her and R-Truth. That was that 24/7 title.
Oh yes, that crap.
People only cared about it because of them. So you do they do the Medusa, they throw it in the garbage, and then she gets released right away. That that is really easy to interpret as a big fu, and she didn't take it that way, and that shows a mental toughness that is missing, in general, from modern wrestling. But that's also something that would have been difficult from a more hard nosed, era. The you get it's just so the fact that she was able to go, F it, I'm gonna turn around, I can make this work. Like I said, she reinvented herself, and that's something we don't really see. And she reinvented herself and she shined. Like I said, listen, the Hardys, once you hit a certain level, there is no reason to kind of change it up. But what you see is you see a lot of folks who get released and they try to do the same old thing, even though they got released for it. You know what I mean? So it's like, but to see like folks like Mustafa Ali, Ash by Elegance, Cardona, to kind of take a look and go, I can either do what didn't work or I can find a way to make what works for me. And honestly, that's the most important part of it all, is finding your sea legs and finding what works for you as the performer. The everybody loves Stunning Steve, but Stunning Steve was never gonna hit Stone Cold levels of fame. So like being willing to experiment and put yourself out there and to find success with it, that's something that should always be celebrated.
Now the question is, where does everybody go involved in this? Like the Elegance Brand, they were becoming one of the best things about TNA. I mean, they were funny. It was three different women who, you have Ash, who's the veteran. Then you have M by Elegance and Heather by Elegance, who are rookies. And now you've taken Ash out of it. It's like, okay, how does this work? I mean, they had, they have the Iceman or Concierge, who's fantastic, but this hurts, I think, the three of them, because Ash was sort of a star, and she was the one who could probably get the ear of TNA, probably help, like, sort of push, hey, this is where we want this to go. This is where we want, the angle to go. Now she's gone. How much does this hurt them?
It does hurt. It does hurt, but I do think that they're not going to dump it. I do think they're not going to dump it. Um, it's funny. So before she had to step down, I was thinking, man, what a great time to turn around and bring back the beautiful people, and kind of give it one last quick little storyline, right? But they could listen. I honestly, what I would do is I would put them with the inspiration. I said the icons. I would put them with the inspiration, because you've got proven performers there. The And let the story evolve from there. Let the story evolve from there. The Because there's still room for growth. There's still room for growth. There's still the ability to keep the story, the brand alive. The and just because Dana can't wrestle, it doesn't mean that when she feels up to it, she can't pop in, via for a video package or some kind of promo for the other girls. So it's still possible to keep it going. Also, too, it's as simple as everybody cuts a quick little "we're going to do this for you" storyline, or promo, and now you've got a new element to the storyline that, if you try to play it out as heels, well, it puts you in a position where you still kind of want to get behind them. If you baby face them, well, hell, then they're super baby faced, because they're doing it for for a fallen friend. So that they have room, and they have people there, on the creative side, who have had to deal with this before in the past, and understand the ebbs and flows, of ever changing TV. So if they take their time and don't panic and do it smart, it's still very much so salvageable, and it's still a tremendous opportunity for Em and Heather. The, and again, I think if you find a way to lump them in with the inspiration and kind of keep the same tone, there's a lot of fun things that they can do, and keep the momentum going.
So she hands the title over. We get a battle royal. It ends up being Layling Lee versus Kelani Jordan as the two winners. And they have a singles match. Kelani Jordan wins the title. People are upset. I'm gonna put you in the Booker seat because I've been arguing with the TNA fans. You
Mhm.
found out your champion has a serious health issue. She has to leave, not just step away, but maybe even leave wrestling. You get this on 24 hours notice. Oh, by the way, same week that Masha Slamovich has been, for all intents purposes, suspended, released from a company. Was there any way you looked at this and go, okay, what here is a better plan B, or was this one of those things where even you would look and went, man, we got nothing. We for what it without having to just like expedite storylines and burn things through without any build. Like this is just throw something against the wall and see what sticks, and hopefully it doesn't suck too much.
Yeah, I think, like I said, man, they lost two big hitters for them, and to do a super shift kind of throws everything in flux. Versus, you have this NXT story going. Um, now you have another an NXTer with a TNA title. The So it puts even more urgency and emphasis on what's happening between the two brands. But for the extra added spice, you have a champion saying that they want to equally represent both brands, and that they're essentially removing themselves from the war. And how long can she survive doing that, right? Because you have to pick sides. It is what it is. The So I think this was I think this was the smarter way to go. Because like I said, if you start scrambling and you start throwing shit up against the wall, it's gonna feel like you're throwing shit up against the wall. The and right now, although the TNA Women's Division is interesting in the sense that they do have a lot of girls, and the girls are all very capable. But but it would putting the title on them do more harm than good, in the sense that only a handful are really ready to be champion. A lot of places treat their belts like they're props. I would even say Vince did this a lot of the time. Especially when it came to the mid card titles, treat the belts like they're props, and instead of the belt elevating the performer, the belt winds up being an albatross, and and pulls them down, because they're not really ready for the weight of what being a champion on a weekly program really truly means. It does come with a lot of responsibility. So the again, I think this was the smarter way to go, because now it also creates an air of urgency on the TNA side for the other contenders to go, hey, this is bullshit. You guys gave this to an NXT kid. We're over here, and I mean this in a storyline sense, where you have more room to storytell, where people are getting fired up and want to get their shots. And you can create the opportunity for a dark horse opponent to kind of come in and change it all up. On the NXT side, they have a lot of young women who are also belt capable, but may not necessarily be belt ready. And now there's a nice feeder system, or rather I should say, you created a nice little feedback loop here that creates a lot of energy and urgency on both sides of the equation. And it's one of those times where good matches, a couple of really good matches, can actually facilitate a storyline. We watch AEW try to do this on a regular basis, but because there isn't enough history there, Um, to try to generate storyline from matches, it doesn't really work. This is one of those rare times where matches can help create the storyline. Just because of what happened.
I've heard this from TNA. They should have put the belt on Tessa Blanchard. They should have put the belt on Tasha Steeles. They should have put the belt on Rosemary. Two of them are cold right now.
Yep.
And with Tessa, it's like, okay, if the plan then is to have Indy win the title, you are literally just burning through a title defense, a title win, and then just. I get where TNA fans are coming from.
Hmm.
It's a lot of people are getting replaced, sort of, because they're going with people who they view as more star power, TV ready. How tough is it though for when people say, "Oh, yeah, this person"? It's like, okay, well, you're burning now through just title people, and this
Hmm.
title, as you said, this title becomes a hot potato. You're just
That's
handing
it.
off,
Yep.
and
Yep. And
you don't
listen,
have enough established heels in this company that can carry a feud and look the part.
yeah, listen, there's a time and a place, for your title to become a hot potato. We've seen it work very well, but we've also seen it work very poorly. The and like you said, two are ice cold, and two are in the middle of something else. And for all four, it turns into, well, this doesn't really do anything for them. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. The Tessa has a nice. We're replacing the broken foundation that allows these weirdos to chant what they chant at these shows. They're rehabbing her through storyline, and frankly, I would say it is working. The Also in the process, they're making new characters. They're making new contenders, and at the end of the day, that's more important than throwing that belt on her. The ability to create new characters and inject them to the storyline and have them walk out credible, it doesn't get better than that. Tessa is doing what you need main event players to do when they don't have a title around their waist. The the other three, again, there's no real reason to throw the title on them because it doesn't do anything for the title and it doesn't do anything for them. At least not yet. Right now, the name of the game needs to be to get to the other side of this NXT storyline and have the ability to reestablish what one you're building on you're building the credibility of these of your brand titles. You're getting them as much public exposure as humanly possible. You want those titles to be red hot going into whatever TV deal they're going to wind up having, and then that's when you activate your four tops, and you can get the other two hot again. The right now it's kind of like they've got to dance a fine line of stay the course, but also adapt to the situation on the ground. I get it. You're a fan. You invest a lot of time, energy, and effort into the people in your brand, and you want to feel rewarded for that loyalty. But people also have to also understand, just like with soap operas, wrestling does not take off. It is 52 weeks a year, and that's not including pay-per-views and any other specials that pop up or any other appearances that get made. So everything that you do has to be structured for both the long term and the short term, good of the brand, of the performers, and of the titles.
All right, so this Tuesday we get its TNA NXT countdown, not invasion, because well, it's during that there's a certain event that happened in the Middle East a year ago, and a certain country was upset, and so you WWE and TNA went, okay, well we'll be sensitive, so we're doing this countdown.
Yeah, a couple people who are also still wearing Free Palestine pins are screaming. It's the outrage circus is absurd. But Hunter's and Vince, so he caved. It is what it is. It's a dumb fucking name. Honestly, they really they should if they were gonna dust off a name, given the tenor of the story and where we are right now, they really should have just dusted off Anarchy Rules
I'll be there as it may.
or World War III.
This is now where egos have to either be checked or they have to be finagled or massaged. If this was Vince is like, all right, yep, TNA's NXT is going to beat TNA 2-0. Hey, Ali's going to do a job to Ethan Page. Dark State is going to beat the Hardys, and we're going to have all the titles. And yes, TNA can go poo-poo their way home. So if you're Sean, how do you play this where your bosses don't want to look weak? You also don't want people to go, see, this is AEW partnership all over again here. How do you, I mean, in the perfect world, how do they navigate this so that everybody comes out a winner, which is the toughest thing to do?
Well, it's gonna come down to the finishes, not so much the result of the finish, but the story that gets told once the finish is done, right? Because WWE has perfected the storytelling trick of the wins and losses aspect of this don't matter. All that matters is what what happened immediately after the bell rings. So the you can either split it, you can either split it and go 1-1, or you have someone go 2-2. The and it could have super dire consequences for either brand. I actually think you get a little more. I think you get a little more spice out of having because listen, we know what's the shoot. I always get this. I always get mixed up in the cycle. The we're Bound for Glory and Slammiversary, right? We're on the road to Bound for Glory, right?
Road Bound for Glory. By the way, it's going to be Hardys versus Team 3D in a tables match.
So
as Bubba said, does NXT want to put the titles on the Hardys and have Dudley's versus Hardys for all the marbles? I mean, there's loads of questions. You start looking, going, oh yeah, how does this happen? This happened. This happened. And again, you're trying to placate a bunch of fans who, one side or the other, they're going to just react. And they're going to be plenty very sensible. They're going to be very understanding. Or they're going to throw a hissy fit and start, stamping their feet and going foul. So yeah. Dude, good luck, Sean and Tommy. I wouldn't want your job here.
I know. Listen, dude, this is, and you know what makes me sad is this is the kind of storyline that if wrestling magazines were still a thing, dude, they'd be in a boom period right now, right? This is all the fantasy booking that you could ever want to see. But unfortunately, in the internet era, the actual fandom kind of gets drowned out by the crybabies. Right now we're on the road for Bound for Glory, right? It's TNA's, essentially WrestleMania Night 2. If Slammiversary is their WrestleMania Night 1, right? So we're going in for Bound for Glory. All storyline, I would imagine the majority of these storylines should wrap up around then, right? It's going to be Santana. We know it's going to be Mike Santana, and it's going to be Trick. That is what matters here. The ending of that match is what matters. We got to be honest. That's what matters. Nothing else here matters. Everything else is just a storytelling trick to extend out the narrative. If TNA loses, now they're, storyline wise, they're backed into a corner, right? They're backed all the way into a corner. They're the underdog. They've eaten all the shit. It's do or die. It's do or die. But if you have TNA go 2-up, well, now there's no urgency, right? Now there's no urgency. Now Santana and Trick turns into just a regular title match. If they go 1-1, I would have the men lose and the girls win. especially too. The TNA girls can take the loss, can take because it creates more interesting storytelling possibilities for TNA for the NXT girls, and the and the interpersonal drama that exists there. And it's a shot in the arm for what's her name? What Kalani wants to do, where she's trying to represent both brands. You give some heat from the NXT girls. You can still have a little resentment from the TNA girls, but they start to accept her a little bit. There's a lot of storytelling possibilities there for for everybody. And then I don't know how much longer you're going to leave Trick and Oba down there, but if the men lose, if the men lose, knowing that Trick has got to be dropping his belt to Santana, you could have it come down to some kind of miscommunication between him and Starks. And now when Bound for Glory is over, it's back to Starks and Saints can have a short little feud to really establish that Starks is the top dog, and then it's you can do what you're going to do with Trick. So they've got options. I think the only option that should be off the table is TNA going 2-up. I think that's the worst. That's the worst outcome. And I think no matter what happens, I think the best way to go is the men have to lose. I think the men have to lose.
There's a lot of TNA fans who are getting upset, and one of the and the women's I think is the one that they really has gotten under their skin because it's sort of Kalani Jordan's a team captain TNA. She's not even a TNA wrestler. Your other three members are the Inspiration and Mara Sade, who are all WWE castoffs.
Mm-hmm. But listen, it's
So here's a question. It sounds cruel, but it has to be said. If you're TNA, at what point do you have to go? All right, we're willing to lose certain fans to grow because they've become sort of the local yokels at the bar. They're never happy. They want what was good in the day. They say, hey, we want we want good creative, we want originals, doing well. And it's like, okay, so you're not going to grow. I mean, there's
yeah,
a segment that doesn't want this NXT thing to continue, and to get a TV deal with a major company that's going to pay money, not Destination America, not Pop, not
and
international. You need people who look like stars, and you need WWE's backing, influence, social media, and everything that comes with this partnership.
yeah, listen, it's for that segment. Again, the very tiny and very vocal minority. It's time to grow up because at the end of the day, this is a business, and currently, who is signing? Is the WWE writing the weekly paycheck for the Inspiration? Are they writing it for what's her name? Why can't I never remember her name? Sato. The
Mara
like,
Sade.
yeah, but Sade. Like, who's writing those checks? Who? It's Impact. It's TNA. They are TNA performers. The having them there, right? Having them there and having them perform, on the TNA stage elevates TNA. And right now, the name of the game is: do you want to be grab ass backyard fodder, or do you want to be shining in bright lights? Do you want to be AEW, or do you want to be TNA? Because that's what's happening right now. Is through this partnership, they have reclaimed their spot as the number two promotion, right? And it's not like the number two promotion by default because it's TNA versus ROH versus MLW versus CZW, right? It's no, they have legitimately earned their place as the number two. The reason they're not officially the number two is because they don't have TV yet, or a TV that really truly matters. So, do you want to be number two with a friendly relationship with the number one, or do you want to stay where you are and be a niche brand that only has eyes on it because of what the WWE is doing for you, slash long-term fans have kind of come back because they realized that they were too cruel to old school TNA, and that it should have gotten way more love than it initially got, especially after 6 years of Dynamite. So that I'm well, we've talked about this kind of stuff before. I'm never one who subscribes to that bullshit. The if you get if a performer's on your stage, the performer's on your stage. It like listen, as a '90s Knicks fan, right? If some if for some reason Michael Jordan got traded to the Knicks, or if Reggie Miller got traded to the Knicks, I'm not gonna sit there and go, well, this is bullshit because this is really just this is a Bulls cast off. This is a Pacers cast off. No, it's Michael Jordan on the Knicks. Like it's as a fan, that you're supposed to be celebrating that shit and love it. This is not something we saw in the heyday of the Monday Night Wars, right? No one was going, no one was going. X Pac was a Nitro cast off. It's like you get happy. You're supposed to be happy that your team picked up some star players, and then you got a little extra firepower, on your bench. There is always a time and a place for originals to shine. But part of being a paid professional is knowing when it's knowing when your role is to kind of step off to the side for the time being. And when you get told you got to step up to the plate, then you got to damn sure be ready to step up to the plate. And because we can have this conversation about TNA, we can also have this conversation about NXT and how people haven't been called up yet, or how people on the main roster, haven't been put in certain slots yet. Like, let's be honest, right? I'm sure we're gonna have to talk about it at some point in time this week. When you're heading towards Survivor Series, right? When you're in that weird space between SummerSlam and Survivor Series, good luck getting time on TV if you are a peripheral player, as in someone who does not hold the IC title or the US title, right? And even then, if you are a US title and IC title holder or contender, good luck getting on TV, because what happens? It is only the people who are in the most important storyline and the most important, most important to the main event, who gobble up all the TV time. But there is a reason for that. There's a reason for that, and it's because as you are going to these big arena shows, rather I should say, you go into these big stadium shows, you need to generate as much enthusiasm and excitement as humanly possible, to get the most amount of eyes on the product and get the most amount of people spending money on the product. TNA is on the micro scale of that. So if the WWE is the macro, right now TNA is the micro. They're in a smaller scale of this. They are trying to maximize their WWE exposure to get them a TV deal in a frankly very crowded space, but a TV deal changes things for them. It's going to create the ability to have have a lot of the performers not be paid for appearance anymore. It's going to give them the ability to adopt a 52 week, and because he wants to go live, so it's not the third Saturday of every month we're going to tape 4 weeks of TV. It's we're live every week, 52 weeks a year, or depending on where Christmas falls that year. So maybe you get 51 or 50 weeks, maybe go 50 weeks a year with two pre-tape specials, right? So, but that is a game changer. That is a whole new world. It's a whole different level. It's opportunity for everybody. It's one of those things where you gotta be able to step back and understand that the rising tide does in fact lift all ships. So, do you want scraps, or do you want your own prime rib?
Speaking of what I want, we got Tiffany Stratton versus Stephanie Vaquer. People, that was a dream match, but this, once again, this crown jewel thing sucks ass and swallows. Kevin, they both are very respectful to each other. There's no heat. I get it. It's just like Bill Burr and Dave Chappelle taking the check from the Saudis. I understand money talks, and if they want something, they get it. I friggin' hate this goddamn Crown Jewel event. There's no booking. It's just, oh yeah, we're gonna have a title match here, but for a belt which never comes to America, it stays in
Yeah.
the Saudis because hey,
Well,
Saudi prince, that's chic. Hey, whatever
aren't
I
they
want, I get. Like
aren't they in Australia for this one?
it's gonna be in Australia, but that belt's still going. They'll show it off. It goes back to the Saudis. Like I
Yeah.
if I was in charge of TKO, I'd ixnay this Saudi deal as quick as possible and go, no, we're not, no, we're not doing this because this just ruins everything. It literally is like, okay, well, give us a check, we'll do whatever you want, and the fans are the ones who suffer.
See, their job is to take that check and do whatever they want. This is no different than an indie show doing a birthday party or an indie show having a paid show. All you got to do is show up at the ring and collect the check and deliver some entertainment. That it doesn't matter where the check's coming from. The I would also say that, hey, everybody wanted to bitch and moan about being Saudi Arabia. Yeah, sure, the Saudis have done some shitty things, but the Saudis have also done a lot of really good things. And they need to also understand that the reason Vince signed this deal was about the future. Vince was thinking about the future of textbooks because people who know their history understand what happened when rock and roll came to East Germany. When Levi's came to East Germany. When McDonald's came to East Germany.
Yeah, but there's a difference, Phil. That's and we could go off on a
But
different
but but but,
tangent
but, but
about
no,
like
no, hold on. We got
Islam
let's go.
and
Well, no, it's important to talk about it, right? Because at the end of the day, and it's no small thing. Um, Goldberg came to town and was highly requested, and an entire country of people who have an okay relationship with 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 Jewish people were chanting Goldberg and begging for Goldberg to come back. The government has, to accommodate the female wrestlers, has made tremendous strides in terms of what females are allowed to do and even what they're allowed to wear. That does not happen without Vince McMahon going, hey, let's make a deal. If we got to come, we got to be able to do XYZ. That is something that cannot be underscored. I know people want to, but it can't be. The WWE has played MTV's role in terms of changing the course of how communism reigned, going into the end of the 80s and into the early 90s. It is that cannot be denied and should never ever be ignored.
I get that part. As I said, we could go on a socio-political rant, and that might take us. We might get canceled and arrested if we're in certain states, and there might be some people who want to free a certain country that might all of a sudden
Yeah.
declare us public enemies of the country. But again, this is the beard. I mean, that's like me being, hey, I have a swastika tattooed on my cheeks, not on my face, not down below the other cheeks. I am a member of the Nazi party, but hey, I'm not racist because Kevin Apollo is my friend and he's black. That's what this deal is. This is the Saudis basically going, hey, we're really not bad. Yeah, we stone homosexuality is illegal. Women really can't do a lot. Yeah, if you speak out against the Saudi government, we can jail you. But hey, we're with WWE. They're nice
Again,
people.
I think that's a gross misrepresentation of what's going on.
Eh, we will
We're
agree to
if
disagree, Kevin.
people crying about the journalist getting what he got, ignore the fact that the guy was a terrorist and was plotting against the Saudi government. The guy was a piece of shit. He got what he deserved, and that is just the end all be all of it. Yes, if you watched PMS NBC, if you watched the Clinton News Network, you never got that side of the story. Hell, honestly, if you even watched post Murdoch Fox News, you hardly got that side of the
Oh, I'm not
story.
even talking about Jamal,
I'm just saying,
that guy, Jamal Khashoggi. I'm talking about just in general. You cannot criticize the Saudi government. They don't react well. It's not like Donald Trump will just send some mean tweets.
what is the WWE not supposed to go back to England? Because
I personally, I wouldn't mind that. I
the
mean,
old
hey, if the
the
more we
old
can screw with
communists
the
in Europe
Brits, I'm
got
all
into power
for
and they're locking people up for social media posts. Listen, the world is the world is the world is the world. It's everybody's done something shitty at some point in time and done really shitty things. It just is what it is. That is the course and nature of history. The the fact that they said, "Hey, we're willing to make some changes and update how we do things," is what's more important. It is the growth. The the only thing that sucks about it is anytime the girls have to go wrestle, I got to suffer through a match where it looks like a shitty Power Rangers episode. That's the most annoying thing about them going to Saudi. But my ability to watch wrestling at fucking 3 o'clock in the afternoon and not have to suffer until fucking midnight, I, go, do it up, do it up. The only thing that sucks is yes, you're because when you break it down and you understand how they're watching wrestling and when they're getting the content, why are the Saudis successful thing seeing Goldberg, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels? Well, it's because that's what they're watching right now. They're watching that era of wrestling, as it's being fed to them. So they're getting really old content, and now they're getting the newest stuff. But yes, that's why they have such a hankering for legends, because the legends right now are is what's top of mind. It's essentially, it's like being a fan who went into a coma at the end of 2000, and then them waking up and they want to know what happened with Kurt Angle and Stephanie. That's just that's kind of why we're getting what we're getting in terms of some match selection. But the other part of it is, hey, they have a fiduciary responsibility to cash that fucking check. So if the Saudis want to keep writing big old money, then their job is to take that check and figure out how to make it work. And the fact that at least they moved the crown jewel thing to someplace else, but crown jewel itself isn't working because of the nature of how they present the shows now. If this was during the era, if this was during the brand supremacy era, this would be the shit. It just would be. But the brands don't feud. The pay-per-views are merged. The draft really doesn't mean much of anything. It's just an excuse to waste 4 weeks or to waste 4 weeks, rather I should say to waste 2 weeks twice a year. The it's just so it doesn't have the oomph that it should have, right? Because we were talking about doing this during at the height of it, Cena's leading this month's pay-per-view, Batista leads the next one. All the storylines don't touch so it's like and then the only time the brands got together was bragging rights and Survivor Series, and it was hardly ever during Survivor Series, in all honesty. The right now the battle for brand supremacy is the missing aspect of this. Because it's the champions gonna fight each other, and there really has been there's no storyline blowback for it, so it's kind of like a who cares. The outside of because I'll give them this, they did do a great job of adding an element to the Rollins Cody match that could have storyline implications for Rollins. That whether he wins or loses, they're in a really good spot. They're in a really good spot to advance.
Oh, that ain't that. But the women's is just it's dog crap. It is a
the women's
turd sandwich where you're like, I respect you. I respect you. I don't care. Nobody says that anymore. God.
Well, I know it's the fucking curse of ROH, that handshake bullshit, blah blah blah. Like, bro, wrestling is based off of interpersonal beef, and professionalism eventually always goes to the wayside if you got beat a certain kind of way. Now, listen, could we open up the doors for could we open up the doors for some kind of storyline potential, where Tiffany loses and now it's like, oh, there's now there's some vulnerability there, and so now she's on, it creates an opportunity for someone to kind of come in and Pearl Harbor her, or Stephanie loses and now she looks vulnerable, and someone like Asuka goes, you weren't worthy, that you lost to the Barbie doll. It's fine, but it's just it kind of is what it is. But listen, here's the bitter pill to swallow for people watching this. I'm sorry, the men's title is always more important. It just is what it is. The men's heavyweight title, specifically the WWE one, because we got to be honest, right? The Cody is holding the belt that matters the most to them. But the men's world championship match is the most important thing on the card. Then, now, and forever.
Speaking of now and forever, the Rock Smashing Machine. Right now, it's not doing too well financially, but it's getting great reviews. He is getting rave reviews for his acting. Is it time? And look, he in the past he's done some excellent acting roles before he became Mr. Big Super Action Comedy Hero star. Is this the role of this the performance where all of a sudden Hollywood starts looking at Rock going, hey, no, he actually really can act like we thought he did in the beginning.
I don't really know what this does for The Rock. I'll be honest for you, because yes, what was what was the Get Shorty sequel? He shined very bright, and people were talking about how if he improves his craft, he could potentially be an Oscar winner, right? And then his super big break was supposed to be Southland Tales, but that was a effing disaster. The
Oh, Gridiron Gang, he did an excellent job.
and Gridiron Gang was different, but that was also still that was a Disney touchdown family feel good joint. You know the I, 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 I I am happy for The Rock in the sense that yeah he his he needed a passion project, right? Black Adam was a big blow to him. I don't think it was any worse than anything that had come out in the last 5 years, but for some reason, some people chose to make sure that that movie bombed and would be regarded as a bomb. The and he was told he flew a little too close to the sun, and it was time for Icarus to go take a dip. The he tried to muscle his way into something that he had no business trying to muscle his way in, and he paid for it. The Coming back and doing this and kind of getting a little bit of a resurgence, good for him. Good for him. Now that I laughed, it's like, yes, it was shocking to see the weight loss, it happened, and the speed at which it happened. But now, a couple weeks later, he is starting to look good again. And I always point out too, people don't understand that after Conan, Arnold did drop a tremendous amount of weight. And if you were someone who was a Mr. Olympia fan, seeing Arnold in Conan, and then seeing Arnold in, oh God, by the time, well, Terminator 2, seeing Arnold from Terminator 1 to Terminator 2, people probably would have been tempted to have had the same discussion about where The Rock is. But when you look at The Rock standing next to a normal human being, he's still enormous, so at some point in time, The Rock is in his 50s. You do have to make a choice, because 350 pounds on the heart, if 350 pounds of muscle is still 350 pounds in the heart. So, health wise, great, but do we think that they're really going to give The Rock an Oscar? I don't know. I don't know. You know, Hollywood has clearly told us they don't really give a shit how a movie performs. It actually would probably hurt him if the movie performed well. Case in point, Ali. The But I don't know. I haven't seen the movie yet, so I don't really know how to talk about it. It's also a weird time of year for this movie to be coming out. Usually, this kind of a movie is a you I guess they wanted they wanted to drop it on time for for the Oscars, but usually this kind of movie comes out mid-September, or it comes out in January, or comes out in middle of November, or comes out the middle of January, beginning of a February, because of how moviegoers tend to bounce in and out. The So I don't even know how many people outside of wrestling fans or UFC fans that this movie is even popping up, in the social queue. Because the marketing for this has also been a little weird. The but again, but we'll see. But we'll see. This is probably going to be a slow burn movie. I hope I'm right on that because I do think The Rock. It would be nice to see The Rock have a little bit of success. There's a lot of doomsday saying right now. He's become kind of a bit of an easy target, but the guy worked his ass off. From if what people are saying is accurate, he's acted his ass off. He does have great chemistry with Emily Blunt. They're always good whenever they're together. The so I hope this movie's good, and I hope it does well for him. And honestly, it would be kind of cool to see him get a freaking Oscar. The because it would just kind of talk to the versatility of The Rock. We can bitch and moan about his influence on certain storylines, and how they play out, and the I we know what we know why he wasn't at WrestleMania. The he wasn't allowed to be at WrestleMania. His The Rock is someone who typically insures himself so that if he wants to go do something, he can. And Disney flexed a lot of muscle and overrode his policy and made sure that he could not go. The WWE was very much aware that he could not go with more than enough time, and the WWE chose to carry on with the storyline the way they carried on with the storyline, and we got what we got. Now, this just wasn't The Rock's fault. There were a lot of people who to catch blame for how dumb last year's WrestleMania played out, especially when if they had just played The Rock's music, we wouldn't be having the conversation we're having right now. So a lot of people shit the bed on that. But that's another story for another time.
Finally, gotta get to our AEW segment. They went all out this Dynamite. Maybe a new surprise, as you saw, it was the return of Andrade. We saw the Young Bucks blow all their money. We saw a sort of quasi deathmatch street fight with Chris Statlander versus Marina Shafir. We've seen everything, and what did we get for those who watched? AEW got a average viewership of 465,000 viewers. That's a 16% drop from the previous week.
Actually, so I saw NXT took a shellacking too. What the hell happened? What was happening on Wednesday and Tuesday?
Major League Baseball
Oh, it
players.
was baseball. Wait, never mind. It's baseball. It was baseball. It's baseball. Oh, never mind. But listen, I do think, holy shit, being in the fours and not even the good fours, that's not a good look. And we got to be honest too. AEW fans, are not exactly who I would expect to be being, sports ball fans. It's a little different for WWE. If WWE fans that is a little more open to everybody, that's way more normally accessible. And that you can pop on and watch this whenever you want. But we were, if you're a Yankee fan, you were watching the Yankees kind of deal with some things. There's a lot of stuff to wrap up. So the I understand why everything was as low as it was, but NXT still managed to still stay, not too far away. I would say NXT managed to stay reasonably far away from their normal numbers, given what was going on. AEW, what the fuck? And listen, I had it on. I had Max on in background. There was not much compelling about that show at all. The you know the that shit. I don't know if I don't even know if I'm getting my weeks right. The In terms of what I watched, because The last 2 weeks of Dynamite have been absolutely indistinguishable from one another. And great, Andrade's back. Okay, I mean, good for him, man. Good for him. The game changer returns to change the game or something.
It was a 6 year anniversary of this show. 6 year anniversary, Kevin. I mean, I keep
That was
asking AEW more and everybody, like, when is it time to start panicking that WBD is going to cancel them at beginning of 2026? They just go, yeah, we're not redoing this show because they're trying to sell this to Paramount. They're trying to sell all WBD. And TKO, which has the UFC on Paramount, is going to go, no, we're not working with these guys. No, no, no. You need to get rid of them. So again, Tony should be freaking out, like, oh my God, this is not good. This is not good. And I know he won't because, well, what's worse happens? Oh, he still is a billionaire's kid. He still has the Jacksonville Jaguars to play with and everything. But it's now getting to the point where this is we've had now two of these under 500 within the last month. There should be panic in AEW, like, oh crap, they might take us off the air after December 2025 because this show is no longer, as you said, on that Mendoza line. It's dropping. And what are they got to keep it around until it's to the threes? Or are they going to go, nope, we're cutting our losses right now?
Honestly, I think the fact that they're trying to sell is probably the thing that'll keep them on the longest because Zaslav wants to dump the WB side, but they also need stability. They don't really want to have to scramble and try to find something to fill that void.
Easy.
If
WBD
anything,
movies, lots of Big Bang Theory. That might Kevin, farting on a snare drum could get more of an effect, but $500,000.
Oh, I know, but you're in terms of for them though, that doesn't. It's not when they're shopping. It's still Dynamite's still an asset. I think what you're most likely to see is Dynamite gets sold. You're off a Wednesday, and we're dropping the show that no one watches, and Collision. We're dumping Collision because it's an albatross at this point. And Dynamite can be on Saturday, and you better make it work because this is your last chance. Just because they need the ability to say, hey, we have live entertainment. Live entertainment's the only thing that's working for anybody right now. So you don't have to keep it, but it's there. Because if, let's say, Paramount does pick it up, it's the people who watch have already been trained to stay there. So all you have to do is find something that can replace it. So think back to Spike, right? TNA was doing very good numbers for Spike. The only reason TNA got booted was because they decided they were going to reboot the network. And I have a good friend whose brother was a Paramount executive, and he was specifically assigned to Spike. And there was a lot of internal grief over this decision to change the format and to dump what was working. Because at the time when they made the decision to get rid of Impact, they hadn't told them they were changing formats yet, and they were like, well, what are we going to replace it with? And they had a bitch of a time trying to find something else to replace it with. And then they were like, oh, well, we're just changing formats anyway. So for TBS, you've got 2 hours of live programming. You want an even swap. You don't want to fill it with just a bunch of bullshit reruns. Because it's you're losing out on potentially finding more revenue sources. Right now, even with Dynamite doing bullshit numbers, they'd still go, hey, go. We've got a brand new piece of shit movie coming out that is only going to do well because it didn't cost much to make, and we're not going to spend any money on marketing it. So you're going to show an ad for it on this dead air that I was watching, and we're going to hope that when you put it up on YouTube, your YouTube numbers will be high enough that we got what we wanted to get out of it. It's just it's really it's better to have them as a, hey, we've got eyes here, but we could have more eyes. You could have more eyes if you make the right decision. The like was I could see. Let's say if I think, and listen, I'm one of those people who thinks it would be a terrible idea if it went to Paramount. We don't need more studios controlling more of the content. We need fewer studios. We need fewer studios controlling each other so that we can get more content made. The more they gobble up, the less gets out there. So I'm one of these people going, no, please do not fucking do this. This would be terrible. I'd rather see WB get broken up into even smaller parts, where they have to be a hell of a lot more responsible for what they're picking up, for what they're picking up and what they're dropping, than having the Ellisons have all the say. It's not good for anybody. But I think, like I said, I think what's most likely to happen is you're going to see them plucked off a Wednesday night and thrown into a death slot, just so that they can honor whatever agreements got made, and give them the flexibility to try to find something else. Right now, they have nothing else. That's the other reason too why it's pretty much safe where it is. They have nothing to replace it with. Had they been able to engage in a bidding war for something like UFC, for a little more NHL, or at this point even fucking arm wrestling, they would have done it. And had they gotten it, AEW probably would have been thrown off to the side. This is a marriage of convenience. Um, the it's just, so it just kind of is what it is. But I would be focused on renewal time, and not even so much renewal, my ability to survive to go someplace else, right? Because if I'm AEW, I should pretty much see the writing on the wall, right? There's a lot of instability in terms of what's going on with WB. The film division is now separate from the TV division. The We don't know what's going to happen with the TV division. New executives come in, they want to make their own mark. They don't want to have, unless you're a winner, unless you're a certified winner. Shout out to the old Mike Sharp promo. The he's a constant winner. The the It's not looking too hot for Dynamite. So now you need to be out there looking to see if anybody's interested, and you're losing. You're in the fours. So like a lower tier network like Fox Sports, you're not even going to be worth it to them. Or are you going to try to beg to get your way on the True TV? Because the rumor persists that they're looking to totally change the format there. The So like, you're right now, the fear needs to be not, it needs to not be, are we going to be able to stay on TNT and TBS? Listen, we already watched me get demoted once. The Dynamite got kicked off of TNT right out the box and got thrown to the smaller channel. Now they need to be worried about if they have the ability to beg their way onto an even smaller channel than TBS. It's the fight needs to be for survival. I don't think Tony, just by virtue of being a billionaire who has daddy, who has daddy there, I don't think Tony really sees the urgency in it. But if I'm an Andrade, if I'm an FTR, if I'm someone who's talked a lot of shit and doesn't have any equity built up anywhere else, I need to be nervous about being able, knowing if I'm going to have a check in another 2.5 years.
I forgot 2.5 years. How about another year? Because as I said, if WBD sells and there's talk of it, it's basically very likely Paramount's going to dump anything that they view as we don't need it. And now that TKO is part of Paramount, get rid of we dump this crap. It's called AEW Dynamite. We have Power to Stop. There we go. We're all happy. More people love to see live dudes get slapped the taste out of their mouth than a bunch of, as you call it, flippy dippy indie blue haired weirdos.
Mm-hmm. Well, I say
That could be the next big match.
Oh,
Hangman Page versus
oh,
Kevin Apollo in Power Slap. Kevin, I know you're like, you'll touch the cheek gently and go, this is going to hurt a lot. And I'm going to enjoy it. I could see you just do the wind up. So let's see if I can take his head off with one slap.
I'm a man of peace, bro. I'm a man of peace.
Yes, but you don't. Even you would love to go. Hey, I slapped a cowboy, a fake cowboy, and I
Yeah.
loved it.
I mean, listen, do I think that your heavyweight champion should be popping off of social media and being on the wrong side of where the vast majority of his fan base is, so that he can appeal to a couple of soy sissies who already don't spend money on your product? Yeah, that's a conversation to have. That's a conversation to have. It's just he's delusional, right? Because we got to be honest about the dude, right? Is there something there? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I think he's a little too soft boiled for me. But this is a dude who got to skirt in off everybody else's hard work. Oh, he was in the Bullet Club. He was part of the elite. No, the motherfucker got invited to the party really late. He showed up for the final 20 minutes of the party to tell everybody that he was at the party. That doesn't mean he did anything. That doesn't mean he did anything else. The and I one thing you can say is every time that belt goes around his waist, the ratings fall off the cliff. The so it's like, I don't know. Listen, you can perm your hair differently. You can grow your porn stash all you want, but you still keep butterflies on your fucking jeans, and no one has ever. First of all, a cowboy from Virginia is a hard enough sell as it is. A cowboy with butterflies on his butt. That's even harder. That's even harder to wrap your head around. So the but him crying about ice, yeah, that's kind of on brand for him. But is it going to help sell any tickets? Nope.
That's all the time we have, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we always love having on the show. I give you from Tony Talk Wrestling, ACW Wrestling, and also his own channel. I give you Kevin Apollo. So, Kevin, once again, where can fans check you out? Where is your own podcast channel? Where is the Instagram, the Twitter, and what else is going on in the world of Apollo?
Well, let's see. Catch me Tuesdays and Friday nights at 11 on the WDW Pro Network, where we have the show Late Nights with Lauren and Apollo. My host Lauren Connor and I, we talk about pretty much anything that there's to talk about. It's either the news and current pop culture. We'll revisit some old classics. Maybe we'll even touch on something that's happening out there in the world outside of the entertainment structure. We kind of we'll talk about it all, anything from the worst sequels to the free speech struggles in Europe right now. So we're going to touch on it. Other than that, I'm going to finally drop some videos for the House of Apollo. Cheap Wrestlers everybody saw on Extreme Cheapskates for his TNA tryout. He's a good friend. He made an awesome theme song for me for the beginning of the videos, so I may drop a little sneak peek tonight on my Twitter, which is at Wardog Apollo. And if you want to get me on Instagram, you can. It's the House of _Apollo. The other than that, I'm around, man. Until you need me again, it's always a pleasure being here. I think you're a fantastic host, doing fantastic work, man. You're a hell of an interviewer. So I love popping on here, man. It's always a pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine. Kevin Apollo, ladies and gentlemen, once again, always on a pleasure. Have you on the show. We come back. A lot more going on here. Only on its Last Call. Last Call at the Alcohol. Only on the Last Call YouTube channel.